Go.
Hey everyone, I'm David Byers. Welcome to my channel. I am a wood turner. I like to take different unusual pieces of wood and blend with it epoxy resin pigmented with mica powder to create this nice, pretty, shiny, artistic creation where we can have contrasting colors between the kinds of wood and the epoxy that's been chosen. So normally on my channel, I like to show some stories. I'm trying to release them once every week or 2 weeks or so. It all depends on how much time that I have. But with the stories, I'm wanting to walk you through the creation of the bowls from the beginning all the way to the very end. And my intent for those is for them to finish out the length of the video to be around 30 to 45 minutes or so, where you can pick up some of the unusual things that happen along during the process. Today, however, I want to take 4 bowls that I have previously created, and I just want to show you something about each one of these and just kind of do this as the second bowl overview that I've done with the channel. So here we have on the end, we've got the mirror effect, we have maybe, maybe not, we have the pink lady, and then this platter's name is Simple Elegance. So I'm going to bring you in closer and let's talk about each one of these individually. So this one is the mirror effect. The mirror effect measures 10 1/4 inches wide, believe it or not, 10 1/8 inches tall, and its thickness is 3/4 inch. Some areas it's actually all the way up closer to an inch in thickness, but 3/4 is the most uniform thickness throughout. This one was actually all made from one piece of sweet gum wood. I know it looks like it's multiple pieces, but we had some grading done at the house, and a sweet gum tree had to be pushed over, and the root system that became available was just outstanding. And I took a watering hose and I cleaned all the mud off of it as thoroughly as I possibly could, and then trimmed it down. And the root system is what made this hollow-form vase. So I blended it with the turquoise blue pigment to create the color, and the contrast between the two just turned out great. I went over and over and over with this one. Most of the time when I'm making a piece, I know what its name's going to be. And you know, this one, you saw possibly some of the other videos that I made. I had part 1 and part 2 making the big green monster. Well, this was the big blue monster when it came out of a 5-gallon bucket that I used as the mold. It weighed 34 pounds when it was just a big block of wood and epoxy. And I turned this one on my first lathe, which was a 12-inch Nova Comet 2, and it just completely swallowed that entire lathe. I had to be very careful with it because it's just a benchtop lathe, and this was the maximum size that you could put on that. So it was quite a challenge. Fact is, I know this was 6.5 liters of epoxy, which is quite a lot of epoxy to make this mix. But anyway, most of the time I know what the name is going to be by the time I get through. This one I had no idea, and I had to sit on it and I had to wait, and I was looking at all the different patterns that's in the wood. I was looking at the swirls that's in the epoxy, and the name just wasn't coming to me. I would see faces in the wood and so forth, but then finally it did come to me, and I looked on the inside, and I do not know if I can show you this in the camera, but when you look down in the very bottom, it actually shows a reflection like a mirror. So that's the name of this one. Is we named this one the mirror effect. Of course, when I'm showing this one at festivals, I will tell people the story, and I will say, just look down the middle and you'll see we named it the mirror effect, but then I'll say, but we should have named it the monster in the middle. so I have a little bit of fun with them. So this was the first very large piece that I made, and turned out wonderful. It's very symmetrical, it's smooth, it is uniform, and I couldn't be more proud of this one. And the name perfectly fits it as well. So, um, you may be wondering why I keep having this golf ball in these pictures. Well, the golf ball's name is Wilson, as you can see. And when you are creating these things and taking pictures of them, sometimes it's hard to tell what the scale is. So I was trying to think of an item that I could use that would properly show scale, that everybody knows the size of it. And I was thinking a tennis ball, but in photos, a tennis ball would be too big. Well, I decided that a golf ball would be rather innocuous. It wouldn't take over the picture. Maybe you haven't even noticed the golf ball in these pictures, but I'm going to try to include Wilson, just like Tom Hanks had his Wilson in Castaway, and that'll be a scale to show these different sizes for these different pieces as we're creating them. All right, so now let's move to the next one, and we will switch over to the pink lady. All right, so here we have the pink lady. The pink lady is made from peach wood, and the peach wood, I've removed the bark. I left a couple of small little knots on the side, and you'll see the little wire pattern that was created as I was using a 4-inch wire brush to remove all the inside of the bark after stripping everything away. And I kept the wire brush going in on the lathe, rotating in the same direction the entire time, so that the lines would all be symmetrical as it was indenting into the wood. And I really like the effect that that created. Now, this was also a piece of peach that branched out into 6 different limbs. So the way that I achieved this live edge was I suspended this into a bucket containing the epoxy. So I only dipped it down so far. Now I have to guess what the level is going to be, because I never know how much the wood is going to suck up the resin. What I actually would have liked was for it to have sucked up a little bit more and dropped down a little bit lower to show this furcation, this crotch area here, but I still think it came through pretty good. What is interesting about this is you see epoxy all along the outside, has a nice cream swirl pattern with it, but all 6 branches that were left are completely seen from the inside. None of them made it to the outside. And you can count the 6 based on the knot holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different knot holes showing where the branches were. And you can see how everything is still connected on the inside, even this narrow little isthmus that we have here. So why did I create the pink lady that was pigmented with rose pink mica powder? At one of the festivals that I did this year, Bear Shadow up in North Carolina, there was a lady that I met, and she loved the color pink. She called herself the Pink Lady, and she inspired me to make some more bowls that were pink, just because she liked that. And I only had one bowl that was pink at the time when she was there, and it was a rather large bowl too. So I came back home after that, and I named several, or I made several pink bowls, and I named this one the Pink Lady, because even though I do not remember that lady's name, I remember her being the Pink Lady. So yes, I hope to see you guys out at festivals also if you're local, because you never know what conversations we're going to pick up. All right, let's switch over now, and we're going to talk about the next bowl, which is maybe, maybe not. So here we have maybe, maybe not. And not, of course, is spelled with a K, so you can see the name maybe, maybe not. And the reason why this one's named as such, it's made with maple wood, and this is an example of the same tree that this was made from. You can see the maple, this sample has a little knot hole there that's hollow. That's going to make something nice in the future. And it cracks and it splits and all these little bitty burls coming off the edge. And then you look at the wood itself and it looks kind of plain. It doesn't look very spalted at all. But once I blend the epoxy with it, just look at all the pencil line spalting that shows up, different characteristics in the color of the wood that comes through. It picks up the dark areas, it picks up the light areas. You just cannot go wrong with maple. It is such a desired, such a beautiful wood, and that's what I love about working with epoxy is I never know what I'm going to get until I've done it. I blended this one with apple green pigment, and this green has been a huge winner for me. I've made several bowls with this color. The character that it imparts into the different colors or into the different kinds of wood that I blend it with is just outstanding. And I just love this color. It is absolutely one of my favorites. The reason why I named this one maybe, maybe not is when you look at this knot with this hollow area, this whole area where the epoxy's coming through, it looks like it's, just separate, but as you can see, it is not. It is all connected. So maybe, maybe not. And then as you look on the inside, as you look at the wood, you can see this window of epoxy that's in the wood, and that window of epoxy does come all the way through to the outside. So you just, once again, you just can never go wrong with maple. Maple is easily one of my favorite woods to work with. And it smells pretty good too. I tell people that when I'm turning cherry wood, I can actually smell cherries. And when I'm turning apple, I can smell apple. But when I'm turning maple, even though it smells good, I do not smell pancakes. Although it does kind of have a little bit of a sweet smell to it when you're turning it. But anyway, wearing a respirator too, we have to protect ourselves. All right, so that finishes up maybe, maybe not. And we're going to finish out here now with Simple Elegance. And so here now, last but certainly not least, we have this platter. We named the platter Simple Elegance. It is Bradford pear blended with sky blue mica powder and some crystal ice white to give it more sparkle. As you look up at the top area here, the sparkle that comes through the blue. I did not oversaturate the pigment as I was making this one because I wanted it to have some translucency to it where you could see through. I'm going to take it off of the stand. As I'm making these pieces, the intent for these is to be art. I would rather them be standing up where they're a point of conversation. However, I am making them functional in mind. Once the epoxy resin sets, it is food safe. And the finish that I'm using on these is always the tung oil from Waterlocks. And as it sets up, it is 100% food safe. So this could be used like a charcuterie board as well. And that's why I've kind of got different layers that's incorporated in with this. The Bradford pear that I used, I've told you guys this story before. I got this from a lady who lives close to me in Clarksville, Georgia. She lives just off the square. In the tree, it was an old tree, and it was killed by carpenter ants, bringing red Georgia clay into the tree, and that's what the carpenter ants killed the tree and had to be cut down. So, um, you know, too bad she had to cut it down, but it's a blessing for me because I got all this great wood with great character. Let me show you what this piece came from. This is the actual piece of wood that it was cut from, and you can see the same pattern. And I'm going to get some more made from this too. Probably going to do a large bowl or hollow form with this the next time, the next go through. So anyway, looking at all of these pieces with this platter. This is wider than what I could make with a 5-gallon bucket. So actually, this is a silicone mold that's 2 inches high and 14 inches wide, and made it really simple to cut off that section and create this with, and then attach it to my lathe and turn it. So with making these pieces, the challenge becomes finding the piece of wood and getting it properly dry, getting it prepared, finding the balance for the right color of epoxy, finding the mold that will hold everything together, and then the fun part is actually turning it on the lathe. So this is the overview that I have for these 4 pieces. Let me scan back out now, or pan back out, and talk to you for just a second, and I'll let you go. So that finishes up the story for this week. Short story this week. I thought you might want a break from some of the long, tedious videos that I've been releasing. And let me know. Give me a comment. Tell me if you think that this was kind of fun, because I just don't have time to show you the creation of every piece. It takes a lot of time editing the video, but even though you don't see the process, seeing the final result, each piece has a story to it, just like each one of us has our own story also. So anyway, give me a comment. I hope that you've liked this week. Please give me a thumbs up, and I do hope that you'll subscribe to my channel. And the next video that I'll be submitting is going to be combining 2 pieces of apple wood and 2 large pine cones, and I'm looking at a combination between a yellowish and a greenish pigment that I'm trying to get some separation of color. So as I make this video, and I'm wondering if I have enough epoxy before my next order of epoxy comes in too. So there may be some giggles with this next one that I'll be submitting in about a week from now. So anyway, once again, give me a comment. Tell me if you like things this week. And thanks, guys. Appreciate you watching.